So what is going on, guys? Only a couple of days after I made that video about Alan Tudyk, and again I'm talking about Uncharted 4. Now, I mean, it's only something that's obviously kind of obvious when it turns out that lots of the people who watch you are very, very interested in Uncharted, so it is kind of nice to have those people who like to watch the videos, and obviously it's always fun to make videos about Uncharted 4, because there's always a little bit of information that we do get about Uncharted 4, and slowly but surely we get a full picture. I said this the other day, of course, saying that we get the idea of what actually happened with Uncharted 4 early on in development, but I kind of wanted to bring everything together that we've learnt over the past couple of years, really, and just make a video about it, and whether we're kind of worried about the game, whether it's going to have any problems in single player and multiplayer, both kind of elements of the game. We just want to make sure that it's going to be the perfect game, the best game that Naughty Dog ever made, and that's what really everyone's hopes are for, obviously, with Uncharted 4, and it definitely can be, but there's obviously been a few kind of hiccups that we've had in the past couple of years, so I wanted to kind of run over those and kind of express them to the rest of you guys who are watching the videos, so that you're kind of fully informed on it, I suppose, because you might not know everything about this kind of thing, but I've kind of looked in quite deeply about it. I've obviously been following Naughty Dog for years now, so it is kind of interesting to see what's actually happened with this development of the game over time. So here's the first thing, obviously. We know that in early 2014, Amy Hennig, Todd Stashwick, and Alan Tudyk, who were all three people involved in the project, as we know now, left the company, or left the project itself. Obviously, Amy Hennig was obviously part of Naughty Dog. She was employed at Naughty Dog, whereas all Todd Stashwick and Alan Tudyk were both actors on the project. Therefore, they were kind of employed by Naughty Dog, but they are on a contract, not actually full-time employed. So we obviously know that those three guys left the studio, basically. They left the studio, especially when Amy Hennig left. Those guys were all kind of well together with Amy Hennig, and specifically what her story of Naughty Dog's Uncharted 4 was going to look like. Now, here's the weird thing as well. We obviously know that Justin Richmond, and I mentioned this in the video a couple of days ago as well, left the company in 2014 as well. He went to Riot Games, and obviously that's the interesting thing as well, is that he didn't actually specifically go for the fact that Amy Hennig was leaving the company. Obviously, it was more to do with the money that he was gaining at Riot Games. But it's still pretty interesting to see that two main people who were part of Uncharted 3 left the company within a few months. So Amy Hennig left, I think it was March, February time, around that time, and Justin Richmond left only a couple of months later after that. And those two were very integral on the Uncharted 3 development, pretty much. Amy Hennig was the creative director, Justin Richmond was the game director. So those two people were probably the most important people in the actual Uncharted 3 development in terms of probably the single player I'm talking about mainly here at the moment. So obviously another thing that's happened in literally yesterday actually was Eric Monacelli. Eric Monacelli left Naughty Dog yesterday as well, and he's gone to Infinity Ward, obviously the creators of I think it's the Modern Warfare. I think they make Modern Warfare in terms of COD. So he's gone there, and he was obviously I think he was the community manager, I want to say, for Naughty Dog. I could be wrong with that specific one. He's definitely got something to do with the community, that kind of thing. But he's obviously left as well. I mean, that might be to do with money as well. We don't know specifically what that's all about, but he's been, again, a very integral part in terms of Naughty Dog for a long time. I know we did an interview with Robin a couple of years ago. I mean, it just loads of different things that he's done with the community itself. So it's very interesting to see that so many people who are such a big part of Uncharted 3 and specifically have left the studio now, and that's really interesting to see as well. But I think this kind of does bring up the question of the actual video itself, which is should we be worried about Uncharted 4? So here's the thing. I've kind of written down a few things that we kind of know about Uncharted 4 at the moment. There's obviously not been that much revealed yet. There's a lot more stuff that we should know, will know probably by the end of 2015, but here's the stuff that we kind of know now. So there's a single player side, which is obviously the most interesting, and I've said this before, it's obviously more interesting than the multiplayer, because the multiplayer, and I've said this before as well, is still led by the same team that was on Uncharted 3. So we've got Robert Cogburn, who of course is the lead multiplayer game designer on Uncharted 4 multiplayer, and he was also the lead multiplayer game designer on Uncharted 3, and I believe he also helped out on The Last of Us multiplayer as well. So he's been pretty much one of the big multiplayer kind of designers for most of Naughty Dog's games. I think he probably worked on the Uncharted 2 multiplayer as well, but he wasn't the lead game designer on that. He was only on Uncharted 3 and Uncharted 4. So here's the weird thing, in terms of single player, we've got the idea that all of Naughty Dog are working on at the moment, and that's pretty interesting because that is exactly what Uncharted 2 had as well. They didn't split into two teams until after the development of Uncharted 2. One obviously went on to make Uncharted 3, and another one went on to make The Last of Us, obviously, which of course, both of those games are now come out. And obviously now they're all working on Uncharted 4 because it's kind of such a big project now because of all the things that's happened in the past. So there's another thing as well, is the fact that this game has been substantially changed, and we obviously know this, we kind of revealed it on Monday as well. And the idea that Alan Tudyk said that there was big changes, weird changes. I think the quote was actually that he used, and obviously that's quite interesting as well to see that he thought it was weird. Now, there's another thing I wanted to bring up in that video, but I kind of forgot about it. Actually, to be fair, is the sense that these weird changes. Well, he might be saying that, but only because he was on the side of Amy Hennig in the sense that she got booted out because of, well, we don't actually know why, but some kind of reason, and therefore it's only understandable that Alan Tudyk would be against what Naughty Dog are doing because he's on the side of Amy Hennig, so therefore it makes sense that he'd be having a negative kind of side of Naughty Dog. So maybe he's saying it's like a weird change because it's not what Amy Hennig was doing, rather than actually being something that's negative on the actual story of Uncharted 4. We don't know, obviously, we won't know until the game's released, obviously, but it's still interesting to see that there might be a slight biased view there, and I think we have to kind of bring that into the equation, and maybe take his opinion with a pinch of salt. I can never speak properly sometimes, but here's the weird thing as well. Druckmann and Straley as well have never actually worked on an Uncharted game in terms of writing the Uncharted game. They've obviously worked on Uncharted 2, and we know this for a fact that they did work on Uncharted 2, both of them did, but they weren't really that involved in terms of the actual writing of the story. I think Straley did have some kind of role. I think was he the game director on Uncharted 2? I think he was, but that again does not have anything to do with in terms of writing the story. And we also know that Neil Druckmann and Straley have both proved themselves, and we have seen this with The Last of Us, obviously, because I mean that is one of the most critically acclaimed PS3 games. It might be actually the most critically acclaimed PS3 game. I could be wrong, but I know it's one of those. Obviously, I think we all know that, and it's very, very popular and very, very well respected in terms of the PlayStation 3. So we know that those guys have made fantastic games in the past, and game I should say, maybe The Last of Us will eventually turn into a series, and I think it will obviously, but in terms of Uncharted, they've never actually made a story for Uncharted, so it is going to be something that is new to them, and that probably explains why they take so long, or have taken so long to make this game. Obviously they have had the delay, and obviously they have had to rewrite the script and everything, but it is interesting to see that they are obviously taking this story which was written completely by a different person, Amy Hennig obviously, and then they're turning it into what they want to create themselves, and that is obviously going to be a different Uncharted. Uncharted 4 will be a different Uncharted to Uncharted 3, 2 and 1. They will all be different. Uncharted 4, we've already seen it looks completely different. I mean, we've got the idea that it seems a lot more darker. Nate is a lot older. The characters are all older. Nate has already settled down. They've all got these different elements of the game now, where it doesn't seem like that's typical kind of Pulp Fiction, I suppose you'd call it, where it seems like, oh yeah, look, they're all happy and stuff. Oh look, Nate go get some treasure and stuff and come home and everyone's happy. That was Amy Hennig's writing, and that was exactly what she wrote every single time, and you could see it in every single game, that they started off with this interesting kind of beginning, especially with Uncharted 2, like that fantastic beginning where, oh crap, what's going to happen kind of thing. And then it still ends in resolution, because at the end of the day, it is still, I guess, a comedy. Whereas, well, with Uncharted 4, what seems like at the moment, and obviously we don't know until we have actually played the game, but it seems like it's going to be something which is incredibly different to Uncharted 3, 2 and 1. So that's obviously going to be very interesting, and to see how the critics and the different outlets in terms of reviewers are going to see that is going to be quite interesting as well. But it will have, I suppose, a different direction to Uncharted 2, 3 and 1. I don't know why I said that out of order, but we'll go with it for now. But that's most of the things I wanted to say about the single player in particular, because obviously the single player, we don't know much about it yet. We know quite a bit about it, I suppose. We've seen gameplay and stuff, but the story is very, very kept under wraps at the moment. We don't know much about that. We only know a bit. We've never actually seen the villain in the game yet. We've not actually seen him at all, or the female one either. It's very interesting to see what that's going to turn all out like. But I wanted to slightly talk on the multiplayer side as well, because that is a pretty interesting topic as well. So the multiplayer, I said this before as well, Robert Cogburn is still at the helm of that. He is still going to be the person who's going to be lead designer on that. And we are hopefully going to see that at Paris Games Week in, I think, 28th of October, so that is next week. And I really, really hope that we do see something interesting of that, because that is going to be one of the most interesting reveals, I think, because, the story is pretty cool, but we've seen gameplay of that now. We want to see what the multiplayer is going to be like. We want to see what they've changed. We want to see what they're going to bring in. And I think that's going to be a pretty interesting thing, but I'm less worried about the multiplayer, concerning more now with all these kind of news that has come out about the single player. But hopefully everything that has come out of the studio so far, and all of these changes and all of that stuff, is not going to be detrimental upon the game. That's all I hope for Uncharted 4, hopefully, and I hope it will be one of the best Naughty Dog games they've ever made. But obviously I'd like to know what you guys think about this game, whether you think Uncharted 4 will still be one of the best games that Naughty Dog ever produced, or will it go into one of those games which was like, yeah, it's a good game, but it didn't quite beat Uncharted 2 and that kind of thing. So let us know that in the comments. Thank you a lot for watching, and banter Dutch. Thank you.